Hello, listeners. It's Menopause Taylor today, bringing you the state of menopause in the world today. And I'm going to talk to you about something called the dirt on dairy. Now, if I were doing this in person, I would be dressed like a cow. Because today we're talking about dairy products. And if you've been tuning into any of my educational stuff, you know that I cover things in kind of like unit format. And I've been covering these radio broadcasts recently on dietary management options for menopause. And sometimes I teach you something that isn't absolutely specific to menopause. In fact, sometimes I present information that everyone should get. And today's broadcast is one of those things. This is a topic that is critical for everyone. It's probably going to make you really wonder about some things. The last few broadcasts have addressed the benefits of a plant-based diet, and I've been lumping meat and dairy products together for some of these other broadcasts. But today what I want to do is separate meat and dairy. I'm only going to focus on dairy products, nothing else. So, have you ever given any real thought to dairy products? I mean, have you ever stopped to compare human behavior to the behavior of all the other animals? You see, I do that a lot because when you compare humans to other animals, it helps you understand a lot about normal behavior and abnormal behavior. And it helps you make sense of a whole lot of things. For instance, you've heard me say that other animals don't experience menopause. And that makes you wonder, what is the purpose of menopause for humans? And the answer is that it has no purpose. We're really supposed to be dead. So see, that brings you face to face with how unnatural menopause really is. And when you realize that, it makes you pause and reconsider how you might want to manage your menopause, right? So if we compare humans to all the other animals with regard to dairy, you'll be shocked at what you discover. Answer this. Name one other animal that continues to ingest dairy after weaning from breast milk. Can you think of any? No, you can't. And that's because there aren't any. Humans are the only animals on earth that eat or drink dairy products once they can eat solid food. So that alone tells you that there's something unnatural about our behavior. Okay, what about this one? Can you name a single other animal that ingests the dairy product of a different animal? No, you can't, because there aren't any. We are the only ones who do something that wacky. And when you stop to think about it, it doesn't make much sense. You see, Mother Nature designed cow's milk to put a few 100 pounds on a baby calf within a few months. And Mother Nature designed human breast milk to put just about 5 pounds or so on a newborn human baby within a few months. Well, you're human. You don't need or want the effects of cow's milk. And just like the calf stops drinking its mother's milk once it can eat solid food, you were supposed to stop drinking your mother's milk once you could eat solid food. But for some odd reason, humans decided that after weaning from their own mother's milk, that we should start drinking the calf's mother's milk. And guess what else the calf's milk has that you don't need? Growth factors for a cow. They are not intended for humans. You don't need to get as big as a cow. And because those growth factors are not supposed to be in your human body in the first place, they cause not only obesity, but cancers, diabetes, weight gain, and digestion problems. Have you ever noticed how many people have difficulty digesting dairy products? Statistically, over 85% of adults have some degree of difficulty digesting at least one form of dairy. And guess why that is? It's because Mother Nature made it so that you're supposed to stop producing the enzymes necessary to digest dairy once you're weaned from breast milk. In Mother Nature's opinion, once you can eat solid food, you shouldn't be eating or drinking dairy anymore. That's why most adults have gas, or bloating, or cramping, or diarrhea when they eat dairy products. And have you ever noticed how people will say that they can't drink milk, but they can tolerate it if it's cooked? Why? Because cooking milk breaks it down somewhat for you. The heat from cooking does some of the digesting for you. And what about people who say they can't drink milk, but they can eat yogurt? Well, that's because the process of fermentation breaks down the milk to a degree also. Again, it does some of the digesting for you. Do you see how this makes perfect sense? You can always count on facts from me, and facts make sense. The bottom line is your body isn't supposed to produce the enzymes to digest dairy, and when you ingest dairy, your body freaks out a bit, and that's why you have trouble. And you know all those lactate products that you can buy? I mean, there are lactate products galore. There are pills, caplets, chewables, fast-acting caplets. There's even lactate milk. I mean, God, think about that. Lactate dairy products, or lactose-free dairy products, are milk products without the main ingredient that constitutes a dairy product. Milk contains a sugar called lactose. That's its main ingredient. But when you were a breastfeeding baby back in the day, your body produced an enzyme called lactase to digest that milk sugar. So your body produced lactase to break down the lactose. But your body is only designed to do that for the first year or two of your life. And then your body is supposed to stop producing it. Why? Because you're supposed to stop ingesting it. But we humans have decided to break the rules. We've decided to continue filling our bodies with the stuff it no longer wants. So the dairy industry has completely bamboozled you and everybody else into believing that there's something wrong with you if you can't digest dairy products. They tell you you're lactose intolerant. There isn't anything wrong with you. There's something wrong with the dairy industry. They've taken this normal occurrence of being unable to digest something you're not supposed to ingest in the first place and told you that you're intolerant if you can't digest it. That's crazy. They've given it a name, lactose intolerance. So they try to make you feel inadequate by telling you you're lactose intolerant. You're not lactose intolerant. You're just not a baby cow. Even the baby cow can't tolerate it once it's not a baby anymore. It's not an intolerance. You're not supposed to tolerate lactose. The dairy industry has even gone so far as to delineate who is most at risk for lactose intolerance, as if it's a disease. Well, I'll tell you who's at risk. All humans after they're weaned from breastfeeding or bottle feeding. Period. So now, not only has the dairy industry brainwashed you into believing that you need to eat and drink dairy products for the rest of your life, they've even created a whole industry out of the lactate and lactose-free products to make sure you do, and you don't even realize that you've been programmed, even brainwashed, into believing you need dairy products. You see, back when you were a tiny tot, the school cafeteria put that little square carton of milk on your lunch tray every day. And they told you that you need milk for strong bones. And you've seen commercials and advertisements to that effect for as long as you can remember. And later, when you were a little older, they told you that you need to get your calcium from milk. And now they made you believe that you prevent osteoporosis by drinking milk or eating yogurt. You know that none of this is true, right? There is vastly more calcium in green leafy vegetables than there is in any dairy product naturally. And calcium does not prevent osteoporosis. Ooh, but the dairy industry doesn't want you to know that. Do you have any idea how many diseases are directly related to eating dairy products? The list will absolutely shock you. It really shouldn't, because I mean, you're filling your body with a substance you're not supposed to ingest from an animal that's not human and which contains all sorts of growth factors and proteins that are foreign to your species. So how is something like that supposed to be good for you in any way? Well, it isn't. It makes you sick. So here are all the things that dairy products cause. They cause heart attacks, diabetes, calcium kidney stones, ovarian cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, Parkinson's disease, autoimmune diseases, and even osteoporosis. When people started wising up to the fact that dairy products contain fat that clogged their arteries and caused heart attacks, what happened? Well, the dairy industry produced a low-fat or skim version of every product. And what did you do? You decided that the low-fat version was healthy. You got snickered again. Just because there's less fat does not mean that all the other detrimental things about dairy go away. Have you been fooled into believing you're getting all the good and none of the bad by ingesting low-fat dairy products? If so, you're fooling yourself after they've fooled you. Oh, and then there's the organic myth. The word organic changes nothing about the fact that you shouldn't be putting this stuff into your body in the first place. Do you see how the dairy industry is just finding a way to keep you hooked on dairy, and you're falling for it? You're probably especially shocked at the last item in the list of diseases that are caused by dairy, which was osteoporosis. I'll bet you thought you were preventing osteoporosis by ingesting dairy products. You see, this is the kind of thing that upsets me to no end. I mean, here you are, having been completely snowed over by an entire industry. And so much so that your knowledge is completely wrong. It's so wrong that it's completely upside down and contrary to fact. So I'm going to give you the truth. Get this, Americans consume more cow's milk and dairy products per person than most other populations worldwide. And you've always believed that milk makes your bones strong. Now, I've taught you that bone strength is all about calcium. And I've taught you that how much bone you have is all about estrogen. So calcium is about quality, estrogen is about quantity of bone. So I hope you realize that calcium, no matter what its source, has absolutely nothing to do with how much bone you have. Osteoporosis is all about how much bone you have. Calcium has nothing to do with that. It has to do with how strong your bone is. So you can have a lot of bone and it can be strong, or you can have very little bone, but the little bone that you have can be strong. Well, if Americans ingest more dairy products, you would expect them to have stronger bones, right? But they don't. It turns out that statistically, the countries that use the most cow's milk have the worst bone health. That's right. The United States has one of the highest bone fracture rates despite all that dairy that Americans ingest to make their bones strong. Now, of course, you know there's an explanation for this, and you know that I'll give it to you. Here's what happens. Dairy protein increases the acid load in your body. Plant protein does not, but dairy protein does. Your body does not like acidity. So anytime your body detects too much acid, it tries to fight it. It wants to neutralize the acid. And one of the very best things for neutralizing acid is calcium. But since dairy doesn't contain enough calcium to neutralize